Thank you for watching Edupedia World videos. In this session we will pick from the point where we left in the last video. We'll start with the installation. Before we see installation hands-on, let us understand the steps that are involved in installing. These are the simple steps. Even if you are installing MySql for the first time, these are the steps that you can remember easily. The first step is to go, of course, to mysql.com. You will go to the downloads tab, search for MySql Community Edition, click on that community downloads, check the latest version of MySql Community Server, click on it. It will take us to the download page. The installer itself will be of 32-bit, but it downloads both 64-bit and 32-bit of MySql versions. During the installation, we'll see how to choose and what to choose during the installation if your machine is 64-bit or 32-bit. I'll be installing on a 64-bit laptop. So here we are on mysql.com. We'll go to the downloads tab, and if you scroll down, you'll find MySql Community Edition. Click on it. Click on MySql Community Server. The MySql Community Server is a freely available version to download for MySql, and we'll be using this one only. By default it selects Microsoft Windows. You click on the download button. This is the installer that is 32-bit, but it installs both 64 and 32-bit. It has a note also here. There are two installers that we are seeing here. If you download this one, it will again interact with internet and download the necessary files for your system. And if you download this one, it will have all the files that will be required to run MySql on your system. I prefer downloading this file, so you click on the download. It will take us to the page where we can start our download. We'll just say no thanks, just start my download. And there we go, we have our installer downloading. Okay, now my installer has been downloaded. So the installer has been downloaded, and I'll go to the installer file. I'll just install it. I am running this setup on Windows 10 and 64-bit machine. It will take a couple of minutes, at least 3 minutes, to start the setup. Here it is, our setup. I'll accept the license terms. This step is for us to choose a setup type. We have a default developer type here. We have a server only, which will install only MySql server. Then we have client, then a full installation. But in this video we will see the custom installation. All those profiles that we saw in choosing the setup type step are dependent upon your own use and or requirement. But as I have 64-bit machine, so I'll select the components that are relevant to 64-bit. First is the MySql server itself. Then we have a workbench, which is a great visual tool to modify, to alter and do many things in MySql. If you want the tray icon and want to get notified of what's running and what's happening in MySql, you can get the notifier. It also allows you to start and stop the services of MySql. Also, there are some connectors available here. If you want to install it, you can install it. Then we have some documentation. We will surely need some documentation here, and then samples and examples. Even if you leave any of the option here, you can come back to the installer, again go to this step and choose your component and install it that time. But it is recommended to install all the required components at the first time itself. So we'll proceed for. So after pressing the execute, you can see here that the components are being downloaded, and you can also see the progress that they are making on the downloads. If you want to see more details regarding the download, what is going on, you can press on this button here, show details. 2 of our components, 3 of our components have been downloaded. Okay, the all components are now installed, and we can see in the status it's complete. The installer is ready to configure our server and the examples. I'll leave all the settings to default. This is an important step of our installation where we are assigning the accounts and the roles. Basically, we are giving the root password. This password is important for us because it will be required for authorization and other things. I suggest that you give some alphanumeric and character in the password with some capital letters. If you want to add another user, you can press on this button here and add a user. I'll just give the name dummy user. You can assign the role to this user. Again, give the password. Right, we'll say next here. I'll leave it to default. Now the server configuration is being done by the installer. Our server configuration is done now. I'll say finish. Then next. I'm checking my connection and it is saying that the connection is successful. Again, it is a step for server configuration. It is done and I'll press finish. If you want to uncheck this option, you can uncheck it. Otherwise, it will open the workbench when you press finish. So here is our MySql workbench. There are some shortcuts given on the right hand side. If you want to add a connection, you can add a connection here, give the name and other important things. But we'll be visiting MySql workbench in some later videos. We'll be starting with the plain MySql client command line, where we'll create the database, alter some tables, do some exercise and learn MySQL in depth. So in the coming sessions we will learn about the MySQL command line. Thank you.